It's time to look at the latest Reolink Duo 3 camera, PoE version. And today we'll be checking out how this camera works, what you can do with the camera in the browser, how it fits in a Synology Surveillance station, internal Home Assistant integration, but also for all of you that are using Frigate, how and if it works with Frigate. So let's check out the Reolink Duo 3 PoE camera. If you've been a long time subscriber to this channel, you know that every couple of months or at least once or twice a year I do review of the Reolink cameras, and I really do like Reolink cameras and I use them myself. So when I was approached by Reolink to do a review or test of the Reolink Duo 3 PoE camera, I was more than glad to do so. There are two things that you need to know about this camera. As it says, this is a duo line of camera. That means that the camera itself is actually two separate cameras that form one big or one wide image. I was a bit skeptical how the stitching works, but the stitching is almost impossible to recognize. There were some cases where I had issues with it, but it was only due to the fact that sun was directly pointed at one of the lens and the other one was still in the shade. So you can see which part of the image belongs to which side or which lens of the camera. The other thing that is really incredible is the number of megapixels. I think that the version Duo 2 had 6 or 8 megapixels, this one has 16 megapixels. The image or the quality of the image is really excellent. There are other things that are common with the Duo 2 camera, which I will not be going into too much details. For example, the stitching or wide angle. It also has the AI that works even better than it previously worked to detect both people, vehicles and pets, and things like that. Where the things improve, these are in my opinion two areas or two things. First one is the night color mode. It is even better than it was previously. It looks much crispier, brighter, and the colors just look a bit more vivid than they used with the Duo 2 camera. And the other thing is the motion tracker. I think that they are calling motion tracker. As this camera has 180 degrees panorama view, you have option to do something like this. To have one image where it tracks the objects in time and in space, like space-time continuum. You have one image that shows you how a person or pet or a vehicle was traversing through the field of view of the camera, and this is not a video, this is image, which also makes it easier for you to get notifications because you do not have to download the video, you just look at the image and you see a full glimpse of how somebody moved through the field of view. I've already mentioned the color night mode. It has normal day vision, it has black-white vision, which is normal dark mode for the night, and it also features colored night vision. The camera has infrared, but it also has the spotlight, so you can use one or the other. The good thing is that you can control that, and you can control it via the Reolink app that can be installed on a PC, for example, Reolink mobile app. You can control it via the web if you connect to the camera via the web browser, but also it can be controlled through the Home Assistant. And yes, it works with Home Assistant internal integration. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. I do expect the Wi-Fi version to come out soon, this year, but the model I've tested is a PoE. And I always prefer PoE versions of the camera because only with one cable I can provide the stable data link, 1 gigabit Ethernet link, but also power to the camera, which is the second issue I have because currently I have too much PoE devices on my network and I was having PoE issues overall of my network. But I was able to fix that by disabling the ER lights on the camera itself. I've already mentioned smart detection. It can detect people, it can detect vehicle, it can detect motion. But besides that, it also has a two-way audio that you can use via the Reolink app. Unfortunately, it's still not working in Home Assistant, and you also have ability to use double warning system. Double warning system is actually a spotlight that can be automatically turned on if the person or vehicle or pet or just motion is detected, and also siren that you can either turn on or off. I did also install the SD card in the camera. It is mounted from the bottom side of the camera and I had one spare, so I used that spare card. That card can be used to record all of the events on the card, so you do not need any cloud services. And yes, you can also use it to create time lapses, which I really do like in Reolink cameras. Remember that pan tilt camera I did review a couple of months ago. The review will be up here. Yes, I used it a lot to track the stars in the summer night. But besides the SD card, you can also, of course, pair it with the Reolink NVR. I do not use Reolink NVR, I do not have Reolink NVR, and I did not ever test the Reolink NVR. But in my case, I'm using one other NVR, and that is a Synology Surveillance Station. The other things are more or less the same for all the Reolink cameras. You have real-time alerts, remote live video, smart playback option, and of course customized motion zones. And yes, of course, also the privacy zones, which I had to use with this camera because the field of view was such a big one that it was looking directly in my neighbor's kitchen. While it does not work with the HomeKit, it works with the Google and also Amazon smart speakers, display speakers. So you can use those smart displays to control the camera itself or to view the streams. Before we dive into how it is set up, how it works with everything, let's compare it with the Reolink Duo 2, Reolink Duo 2 Wi-Fi and Reolink 3 PoE. There is a big difference in price. Reolink Duo 2 PoE version, the list price was 180 euros, it is now discounted to 126 euros, while the Reolink Duo 3 PoE is 220 euros. And that is a big difference in price. In terms of resolution, the previous cameras had 4K view, 8 megapixel. Now we have 16 megapixel, which gives a lot more details. The field of view is almost the same. Vertical is a bit shorter than the previous cameras, and other features of the camera are pretty similar. There is person, vehicle, pet detection, mic and speaker for two-way audio, color night vision, infrared night vision up to 100 feet or around 35 meters, spotlight and infrared LEDs, and the waterproof is now IP67, it was previously IP66. One thing you must know about this camera, it is pretty locked. When I opened or unboxed the camera, plugged it in, I used the app, Reolink App, to add the camera. This allowed me to connect the camera itself to the app, and I was able to configure everything there, but I wasn't able to check the ports, the availability of the RTSP, OnVIF, etc. etc. For that, I needed to install the desktop app. After I installed the desktop app, I went to the configuration settings, network, advanced options, server settings, and there I enabled all of these settings. These all settings are locked out of box. You do not have RTMP, HTTP, HTTPS and RTSP plus OnVIF. All of them are disabled out of box. So before you want to add this either to Synology, Home Assistant, Frigate or any other third-party system, you have to enable all or some of this functionality. For example, for Synology I will be using OnVIF integration. For Home Assistant I am using either RTSP or RTMP, depending if I want to enable RTMP or not. Same goes for the Frigate. And if you want to customize the settings via the web browser, the internal web server on the camera itself, you have to enable either HTTP or HTTPS access. More or less that was it. All of the other settings that are enabled here can also be accessed via the web browser. And this is one of the preferred ways for me to configure Reolink cameras. As with any Reolink camera that has a web browser access, you have a couple of options on the main screen. In this case we have image stitching that allows you to fine-tune the image position, but as you can see here, it's very hard to distinguish where one lens finishes and the other lens starts. It's somewhere around here, and I know because on that side is where the sun sets. So it can happen that sun shines directly to this one lens, while this other lens is clear from all the sun. And that's how I know also where the image is stitched. Then we have other settings for the camera. On-screen display, you can change the name, position it, daytime, also position it, select type of the stream, is it clear or fluent, and also set the settings for it, and also change the image settings, brightness, contrast, saturation, and sharpness. In the advanced settings, you can set anti-flicker, day-night mode should be auto, color black-white, and also is the infrared light off or is it auto. But most of the fun settings are inside the settings menu. Once again, this is a typical settings menu as it is for most of the cameras, but definitely for all Reolink cameras. We have on-screen display settings, we can set up the privacy mask, which I did because it was looking directly in the house of my neighbor. Advanced settings, brightness, shadow, etc. Then we can set the settings for the high or clear stream and low or fluent stream. These are the resolution, frame rate, max bit rate, and the iframe interval. And this here is not the maximum resolution. This one is. You can select frame rate mode, it can be auto or constant, bitrate mode, then we have settings for the alarm. This is sensitivity for motion detection, smart detection, alarm delay. You can set up the object size and the detection zones. This is include or exclude detection zones. You can set up the light here, the spotlight, and also select if you want to turn the spotlight on for the person, vehicle, or pet detected. Audio functionality is something that I've not played with that much. Then we have information about camera that gives you info about the build, the name, the version, firmware, etc. You can set up the recording feature. This recording feature is using SD card, so be careful with that one. You can enable email alerts, but you have to set up everything here. Or you can use the FTP settings to set up the FTP upload of the images or streams or video clips. If you want to enable siren, based on what type of alarm, and also time and the day when you want this setting to be enabled. Plus, one feature that I like very much is the push notification. Also, you can enable it based on the type of the motion or type of the alarm, any motion, person, vehicle, animal, and also based on the time and the day itself. Then we have network settings or network information where you can set it up. Currently it's using DHCP, but you can make it a static IP address. Advanced settings to enable UPnP, enable UID, DDNS, NTP, server settings which we already set up, HTTP settings which we didn't set up because we didn't upload our certificates. Storage will give you information about the SD cards. And once again system, where you can do user management, and I did add one additional user. This is a Frigate user, and there is also option to enable illegal login lockout. This is something that I would really recommend that you do so that you stop all those brute attacks on the accounts themselves. Daytime and maintenance. As far as the Synology is concerned, it's really easy to add. Go to add camera, quick setup. Let's search by IP address, then go to general interface on with, select the camera, press on OK, fill in the details, add username, default one is admin, and the password that you created when you added the camera to the app. Click on test connection and low configuration. Click next, this is it, and click finish. As far as the settings are concerned, I would recommend that you leave the high quality stream at stream 1 and then for balanced use stream 2, same as with low bandwidth. Because stream 1 is the high quality stream and the stream 2 is low quality. Other settings you can leave as they are. For the recording, schedule, stream, advanced, you can play with the settings depending on your setup, how you want to configure everything, etc. But you can also leave everything as is. Same goes for the live view. Optimization, I left everything as is. That means that the NTP server data or the network time protocol data will be set by camera. Overlay also will be controlled directly by camera, and also in the advanced section I left everything as is. In the event detection you can override camera settings. That means that instead of by camera you can use by surveillance station settings. But since the detection is really excellent at the camera, I've decided to leave it by camera. In terms of tempering, I also left it as is, clicked on saved, closed, and that's it. And here it is. In the live view I have image from that camera. If you have issues with the size, you can of course enable or disable this fixed aspect ratio. But I prefer to have a normal or camera fed aspect ratio instead of the one where everything is compressed. This is all the data that you can pull from the camera, except this screen here. This one is actually the other camera that is looking the same way the Duo 3 is looking. But yeah, this is all the things that you can add to Home Assistant. So let's quickly add it. After you have set up the camera via the app and also enabled those ports, this is the RTSP, HTTP, HTTPS, RTMP, and also OnWith, the camera should be automatically recognized by Home Assistant. You should see something like this. Click on Configure, type in the password for the account. That's the same password that you defined when you've set up the camera in the mobile app, but also you can create additional account that would, for example, not be admin account, just a normal user, and then use that account inside Home Assistant. Just remember, it's better to have the admin account because by the Home Assistant we can also configure some of the things inside the camera itself. Click on Submit, select an area, and finish. If we go now inside the Reolink integration, we can see that we have one device with 35 entities. Inside Home Assistant, we can control the floodlight, we can turn off or on the siren, we have information about the motion detection. Is it a motion? Is that motion person, vehicle, or animal? There are also three entities that are not shown. These are the Clear, Snapshot Clear, and Snapshot Fluent. The default stream that is enabled in Home Assistant is Fluent. That one here. But as you've seen in the previous screen, I've enabled in my test setup all the streams that I can get in Home Assistant. Then we have configuration options. Sensitivity, AI sensitivity for animal, personnel, vehicle detection. Day-night mode, is it color or black or white? Email, is it enabled or not? But beware, if you do enable it here, you have to set it up on the camera or via the app directly. It cannot be set up via Home Assistant. Is the firmware up to date? Floodlight mode, is it off, auto or on schedule? Floodlight brightness, FTP upload, once again you have to set it up first in the camera itself. Infrared lights in night mode, currently off. Motion sensitivity, push notifications enabled. Is it recording on the SD card or not? Is it recording audio, siren event, and also volume of the siren itself. Plus we have 9 additional entities. These are ability to restart the camera, AI delay for animal, person, vehicle, day-night switch threshold, image brightness, contrast, saturation, and sharpness. Or as I've shown you, this here. This is all of the things that you can do in Home Assistant. Well, actually, this is not what you can do in Home Assistant. You can do much more. For example, you can create automation. Settings, automation, create automation, new automation, add trigger, device, Duo, when person turned on, add action, notification, send notification, person detected. And then you can also do snapshots in Home Assistant and then, for example, send you that same snapshot via the Telegram, Synology chat, or whatever service you are using. So there are a lot of options that you can do inside Home Assistant with just basic Reolink integration. But I also know that a couple of you will be interested in the Frigate, if and how it works with Frigate. I am not using Frigate. Actually, I'm not that big fan. I simply do not know what I would do with Frigate because all the things that Frigate allows me is actually something that I can do with most of the cameras today out of box. I'm not sure what the purpose of Frigate here would be, but I know that some of you like Frigate and would like to pair this camera with Frigate. This is a temporary setup of Frigate that I've just set for the testing purposes of this video. It's not using any TPU, it's just using basic CPU on my Synology to test everything up. So the performance is maybe not that great, although with one camera it's sufficient and I was able to test more or less everything I wanted to test. Besides this Frigate add-on, I also have one additional, or actually 2 additional components. I installed the integration, Frigate integration via the Hex, and also front-end component, Frigate front-end component also from the Hex. If you're interested in Reolink Duo 3 YAML code used in Frigate, these are my current settings. They are, as I said, simple ones, and I'm using CPU as detector. Instead of using same stream for both detection and recording, you can substitute the recording part with the mainstream and then have higher resolution of recordings while keeping the lower resolution for less CPU or TPU usage for the detection. And with this integration between Frigate and Home Assistant, you can get information about object detection, motion detection, person count, person occupancy. As you can see, there were people walking in the garden. Currently it is clear. You can get information about the resource usage. Again, this is my Synology 920 Plus. Information about the person detection with the probability and mask where the person was detected. And also you can customize some of the settings. So the final question is it a good camera? I will definitely not be going into the quality of the video. I'm also unable to give you that quality because the video stream, video compression of the YouTube, especially at 1080p that I'm doing my videos in, cannot give you the full experience that camera can create with 16 megapixels. Compare it with the 4K the previous model had. 220 euros for the camera, that's a bit of money. So yeah, but on the other hand, this is actually not one camera, but two cameras that are stitched together, and they do replace two cameras. If I move this to my summer house, I will be replacing two cameras with just one camera, this camera here, and I will be getting more out of that single camera than I currently have with two cameras installed. And two cameras also means two licenses for Synology and two PoE ports. So I will be replacing two cameras, two licenses, two ports with just one camera, one license and one port. If you want to check the camera out, the link to the camera will be down in a video description below. And I really would like to hear your comments. Do you already have any cameras? Have you tested, tried, or do you already use Reolink cameras? And also, if you are considering to buy the camera, besides the link below, which will be probably affiliated link, so thank you for using that link, I really would like to hear what is the reason that you are going to invest in this piece of equipment. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And while you are already there, don't forget to check if you are subscribed or not, and if you are not subscribed, please subscribe because I'm trying to hit the 1 million subscribers in a couple of days, which I will definitely not. And last but not least, I want to thank all those wonderful people that are supporting me and that have become YouTube channel members. Thank you all for all of your support. But let's not forget each and every one of you who has watched, liked, subscribed, commented or shared my videos. Thank you. If you too want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button down below and becoming a YouTube channel member for only €2 or $2 per month. Or you can go to my merchandise store and get something there. Plus, you can always do a super thanks and I will be super thankful for that. I will be seeing you next time. Until then, bye bye and have fun.